It's always good to
Um,
effort to the
yeah,
conversation.
no problem. Let's see. I just want to get rid of the bookmark. All right. So, oh no, that's not it. Okay, I got it. I gotta approve that. All right. Can I? Yes, I can. Let me share my screen here, and I'll just do this one. So how's that? You see the slide?
I do, yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me just move. Although if I move that over, right, I can't really see, but all right, well, just the yeah, so we've got you here, right? I like your little the footer there, very nice. You guys got some headshots done, I guess.
Yes, we did.
Um, well, I put a few slides in here just to in case your dad was coming on. So you know, you don't win in the marketplace, obviously you win in the mind.
Hmm.
You know, the ultimate goal of positioning is to own a word in the mind, but how do you get in the mind? The narrow focus. I think, you know, of course, with your brand, you know, you're pretty narrowly focused as it is. Although I think we're going to talk about one aspect of it that is going to be a more of a focus than your competitor, which I think is going to be a good move. And of course, it's because it gets into the mind, and Google Slides doesn't use all my animation apparently. But you know those 12 books, we've gone over a bunch of them, but you know, I always like to say, I mean, it really is the entrepreneurs who are taking advantage here. So one of the things, you know, when we work with entrepreneurs is they're they're fearful of the big competitors out there, right? You have many big lighting companies that, could jump on this idea. And I think they usually don't because the market is so small at the beginning. And big companies, don't go into markets until they're over 100 million, right? But at
Hmm.
that point, what generally happens is that the entrepreneur who launches the category has built their brand. And so the big companies are too little too late. And there's where you see brands like Red Bull able to build a big dominant leadership business, and Coca-Cola was never able
Hmm.
to compete with them, even though they had more money. And therefore, it's leadership in this new category that we're creating that is, of course, the goal, and that is always the goal, the leadership in the mind, to be the leader in this category that we're going to name. And that's why we create the new category, so we can automatically be the leader in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
category. And the examples of Starbucks and Uber and Airbnb and the smartphone and Twitter. But even things like this, I mean, untucked shirts. I mean, who would think that this would be a category? Yet this is become, hundreds of $1 million business.
Wow.
And again, they saw the future, right? It was, I think a little like you. I mean, why not have the future be, more simulated sunlight inside instead of traditional lights? We went over this, so I'm just going to click through these quickly. And this is the folder ID on the mind, right? That you file it in folders and the
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah.
And with again, I think with lighting, you're going to see, and again, actually, you see now you've got LED lights, right? You got traditional lights. All of these have really become those folders that you decide, what kind of light do I want? What kind of experience does that give you inside your home? And then once you've decided what kind of light, what brands are in those folders and categories to choose from. And of course, the big one here is, of course, electric cars, that Tesla was, the pioneer, and they dominate that market. This again, we do need to, and I haven't worked on this. I think we can work together on this, because I think this is going to be the quintessential part of this, because I've got some word concepts that are going to be incredibly important. But as I've shown this to you before, I mean, whatever word you put there, it's not going to be as dominant as whatever visual you use. You know, what clear, you know, right now you've got the woman on the homepage. You know, it could be a yoga site, you know, as opposed to a lighting, you know, type of experience. So I think it's going to be critically important that we find and define what the classic visual is to illustrate what this brand is and what it can do. Now, that's not to say you'll not have multiple images of how it looks in an office or, you know, multiple spots in the house. But, you know, I think there's going to be a critical way that we show this so that people will see and understand what not just the headline is, but the visuals are more important. Let's see. And of course, you know, it's because of the left brain and the right brain. I mean, they communicate the same thing. And that's, again, your name is going to communicate the same thing, but the visual is really going to drive it in an emotional way. You know, it's a bit challenging to replicate the experience of sunlight in a photo. But I think, you know, there's definitely, you know, opportunities and unique ways we can think about it. So here we go. So it was very helpful to, you know, to see that, again, it's not bad that there's competitors out there doing this. It means only that the category is pretty important, that, you know, others see this as an opportunity. And listen, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job in terms of, you know, their website. Obviously, they're getting traction and what they're doing. I don't like their name, a glass light glass. I didn't even say it right. Light glass. That is, you know, not, you know, they haven't made the connection. It's those squares, right? That they're selling, which is a unique way to do it. And in some ways it helps understand what the concept is, but it's not always the architectural look that maybe you would like. One of their things as well is they're going for windows as the first one and skylights. And of course, well, skylights is confusing because people don't always know, you know, that it's, you know, well, I guess they say simulated. But, you know, again, we talked about where's the ideal place for this, knowing that the end market could be everything, you know, meaning it could be Windows and other applications. But again, these things start slowly in terms of the market. And, you know, I think we want to go again, I don't know if I mentioned, but, you know, things like Facebook started at Harvard, right? Today, Facebook is for everybody, but they started at the very top. And the very best application for this. It's probably easier, cheaper to put in a few simulated windows, perhaps than doing a more sophisticated ceiling experience. And so, but I think that to establish the brand, and I think there's advantages to why the ceiling light is better than the window experience. You know, that it has more feeling of the sun than does the window. So I think, you know, that's going to be one area where we can focus. And here where, you know, you have a majority of, you know, your site, and although you mentioned that you can use this application in Windows, I think the transformation when it comes from above is much more powerful. And I think that you can see in this, particularly the office picture, you know, the experience that it provides is much more of a natural sunlight type of experience. I also love this one. And I think this is a unique thing that we can also play off of the plants growing inside, because what grows with sunlight is plants. And I think this could be, you know, I think this is something we might work with as well as a potential.
This
You know,
is something actually, Laura, that we have rejected as This was not too manufacturer friendly. So, and people even did not appreciate the grid design, the lines that you see in the middle of the rafters.
Right.
It's too intricate for people to have it in their houses. It's too complex.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between, I think, and I agree. I think the grid is a little, industrial type looking,
Yeah.
but the point is that you've got a plant growing under your light,
Uh-huh.
and so I don't particularly actually like this picture or the way the grid looks, but what's drawing me to it is
Concept.
showing the plant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, you could have a hook on the wall, you could put the plant under on a table. There's lots of ways that you can show plants or trees or some kind of growth that was generally be outside but is obviously thriving. Now, I assume that a plant would thrive under these lights. I think that's maybe a question.
It's not all the plants. These specifically are indoor plants because
Right.
they do not trigger the growth within the plant. These lights,
Mhm.
they give illumination to the plant, and that's about it. They don't have
Okay.
those abilities to grow the plant.
Right. Okay. And what I mean, is that connected to vitamin D, or I mean, would that be something that would ever be possible, or is that something that is just kind of above the
Uh,
necessary,
to be very honest with
over
you,
the top really
yeah.
of not needed?
So are you talking about vitamin D right now?
Well, no, I'm just talking about like, would there be uh you've talked about improvements to the light, one of which was vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I didn't know with whatever let me try to get the volume up. Whatever improvements you make, if that would impact what kind of plants would grow.
So that's something that we have not discovered yet. And even
Okay.
vitamin D, to be very honest with you, Laura, it's a very far-fetched innovation at this point. We could say
Okay.
that work is being done. We have researchers who are working on it, but it's going to
Uh-huh.
take at least 2 to 3 years for us to release it in the market. It's something that
Okay.
we would count as our vision and count as our mission, but nothing on ground as of yet.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that's good to know. I mean, obviously I don't know the tech side of how, how soon,
But
how
even
possible, how relevant these things are.
just because we have even the research going on for this, claiming that we are working on vitamin D, we feel that it establishes a lot of credibility to the brand and it gives it a very um, credible source to it. So it builds a lot of trust in people that they're just not a commodity. They're not just vendors. They have a mission. They have
Yes, no, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it is important that the end goal here is far, greater than just an architectural difference in a home, that there is actually even better, more health aspects to it. Because as
yeah.
everyone knows, you know, it's amazing how everyone knows vitamin D in the sun. It's a pretty standard thing. Okay, well, that is that's good, but I think the idea being of growth, of showing plants or something, even if they're indoor plants, they still need light. But that's a good point. I mean, that's obviously something I wouldn't know. um what I do think is, we've got to talk about, it's really the current name is focused on, well, it's sun and roof, right? The fact that it's a roof, and I get where that came from. I think that is a unique. I love the idea of combining generic words that are within the category to create something. So you have soy and milk, and you have a brand called Silk, which becomes, a generic, really, it has become a generic for the category itself, as people understand what it is. And again, it's a simulated type of experience, right? Because it's trying to be like milk, but it's soy instead of milk. Um, how we talk about this, and I think it's the most important thing is the light. And you know, the sunlight, right? So we've got to, in the category itself, this is, you know, critically important that it's providing sunlight. Now, you know, eventually we'll have even the medical benefits of sunlight, but right now, as we talked last time, it's going to have the psychological benefits of sunlight, you know, as well as it, you know, coming from above. You know, there were two words that, you know, initially comes to mind when you talk about this, because it's obviously not real. I think it's incredibly important that we're upfront that this isn't real sunlight. You know, this isn't, you know, a moon roof or a sunlight, or what do you call it? The you know, yeah, skylight. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, well, yeah, it got because I love the moon roof in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that, you know, it is interesting as you think, in a car, you've got windows all above. Why do you put the light above? It's because people enjoy the light from above.
Yeah.
It's a kind of an interesting
Gives a sense of
idea.
openness to the passenger in the car.
Yes, no, I know, I agree. I mean, you know, it's to replicate in some ways the idea of a you know, of a convertible. But I
Yeah.
think yeah, I mean, it is amazing. While you're surrounded by the windows, you only really feel free when you have the light from above. um, I just write that down. So skylight, moonroof. Okay. Um, all right. So so again, there's two words. I think that maybe there's more, and maybe if you thought of some, I'd love to hear it. But I think, you know, your simulation is a very nice word. The other word is synthetic. You know, synthetic. Both of these are alliterative with sunlight, which is a nice thing, but synthetic sounds unnatural.
Synthetic
um,
also sounds, especially in India. I don't know about these states, but it sounds very cheap. Synthetic is something that people don't like to associate themselves with. So synthetic
right.
is usually people associate it with clothing here in India, especially synthetic cloth.
Mhm. Yes. No, right. Yeah, actually, yeah, because it's not man-made. It's, you know, some kind of petrochemical, you know, you know, that absolutely no, there's something wrong sounding with synthetic, even though it's probably accurate. But the simulation, I think, is what's nice about simulation is that you don't the experience is the same, right? The goal of a simulation, and so my son spent many summers at this place in America called Space Camp. And as you know, if you're going to be an astronaut, you can't practice in space. So, or pilots as well. The simulators are a really big thing. And, you know, for all of these types of flight simulators, you know, rocket simulators, and it really does mimic every part of the experience. And so I think, of all the words, now it's also a word that, you know, your competitor is using as well. So again, actually, the goal is to have the category be generic and be used by everybody. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The goal is for, you know, everyone to talk about electric cars, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone to talk about soy milk.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to make it and you want to make it, you know, instantly understandable. So, you know, you know, it's not rocket science, but you know, putting these two words together, if it's simulated sunlight, you know, a simusun of indoor simulated sunlight, because I think the fact of putting it indoors, is important. The good news is it's also available. So many times when you put these words together, what I like about it is it sounds like a brand name. What it doesn't instantly tell you everything, which you don't want it to. If you say silk, there's no actual, you don't know that it is anything about it really. But when you know then what the words within it mean, it has then that natural connection within the brain, within the mind. You get the sun without, I think sun is important, but the simusun, I mean, putting in simusun lights, or how we talk about it, is the next step. And we can work. The other thing is, all of these pieces of the strategy are worked in tandem. So, I think we're pretty close here on the category itself. What we've now got to work with is getting the right name and the right visual to show it, as well as the what I always like to have is the headline of why you need this, right? The headline of the story. And then, the top three things about this that make it special, right? That are the sales drivers, the sales pitch that you're going to go after. What's the three things on the homepage? And, I think you've got a bunch of great ideas out there, but, narrowing it down, because what we also have to think about, and I think we got pretty close, and that's why I showed this picture here, that the work environment is most likely the best place to start. And because you spend more time in work, we talked about the benefits. So, if we're going to talk about the work environment, we're not going to talk about sleep, right? Maybe that's not the first one. Although you probably sleep better if you're in the sun all day. I mean, it's not that we can't. Again, there's the top of mind and the first things you hit people with, and then this has, like any brand, or like most brands, has a long story of many things you can talk about. Your challenge isn't finding something to talk about. The challenge is finding what to start with. What is the main driver of what we want to do? So what I'd like to do is get out of this and just open.
Laura, I'd like to ask you a question for the brand name that you've suggested, which is Simusun.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one is that, do you think brand names like Simusun, which don't have a very powerful tongue sound — by tongue sound I mean the th, d, l, v — are they registerable to the mind? Because we have observed in the past that all the brand names with a very soothing sound, with no sort of thudding sound to the brand name, they are not very registerable to the mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's always a balance of, obviously we're talking, there's different languages, and every language has, a different feeling emotionally. That's why we talk about global brands and, using English, which is both of our native tongues, as the, what to judge it by, right? Because we have a lot of work in China, and the sounds in China, forget about it. I mean, it's just totally different. The sounds in the Korean names, Hyundai, is a very difficult name for English, and it's got the die in it. I mean, the reality is, I mean, they were first, and they were so strong that they actually, they did just fine. However, Samsung is a better name, in terms of, it's from Korea, that it does well in Korea as well. Kia is a better name. It's as opposed to what. So we have to think about what are the alternatives. I think, and we also have to think about what the goals are and what other, things we can combine with.
Okay.
And I mean, you can also use other other letters, and we can talk about other, opportunities to put in other sounds. But I think, the direction is pretty good, as opposed to what the alternatives might be. I think as you've experienced, the sunroof problem is people assume that it's a roof.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something that, anyway, sunroof was a project name, just given.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So,
not a problem.
one more question, Laura. Um, our product, maybe there's been a gap of communication. Um, our product is more to do with the sky than the sun, because we map it to the skylight, right? Because these are skylights which are which are made for the places where you practically cannot get a skylight, where you cannot get a recess in the ceiling and get a glass replaced from a cemented ceiling. So sun is something which people will directly associate with maybe a edge cutting light, or the properties of the sun. I don't know, it just seems a little off balance with what our values are and what the name suggests.
Um,
Simultaneously, I'm gonna quickly uh, say my number 3 point, which is that
yeah.
in terms of readability, especially in India,
Uh-huh.
when I first read this, I pronounced it as Simusan,
Mm-hmm.
Simusan. And
Mm-hmm.
we feel that any brand which people may be conscious of reading and pronouncing, they won't use it as often. Would you agree with that? Because there's still confusion
Well,
in.
it
Yeah.
well, I mean, I think it depends. I mean, if you don't Simusan, I'm not sure how we want to actually. I mean, Simusan is probably the way you would say it, which is the way you say it. I mean, I think there's sounds in there that are instantly recognizable, right? It's sim. It's really three. It's right. Um, and so I think there's very little confusion for an English speaker on what that would be. What the driver is, of course, is the category itself, right? And having a name that will be able to be recognizable, short, simple. This has many repeated letters, so the more repetition of letters, obviously names that are incredibly difficult. Show me, if the Chinese, cell phone, impossible to say if you see the name. And so those types of names, start with an X, right? Forget about it. I mean, absolutely, a name as like that, forget it. This one doesn't concern me in that regard.
Okay.
Okay. But that's a good point. I do like the idea that the sky. So you make a good point that the skylight, and I agree. I think we go for the lights above more than anything. The problem is, as sky is a difficult word. You're not simulating the sky. You're simulating the sun that's in the sky. It's a more specific word. And I think, but it is a good direction to say that I like using sun within the name itself, and then using skylights as perhaps the category name. I think that is a very good direction, because that gets
Could you
you
repeat that?
both.
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh yeah. Oh, are we still sharing the screen? Do you see my
Yeah,
screen?
yeah, absolutely. No, you said something
Oh
about
yeah.
category.
Well, the category, so if you see like here, the category is indoor simulated skylights.
Uh-huh.
So you have skylights in the category.
Uh-huh.
So you're not, and I think that's a better direction, because you're, it's well, because if you said indoor skylights, well, simulated skylights. Maybe you don't need indoor, but I feel like um the other thing is, are we the first?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can absolutely claim that we're the first because we've been developing this product for over 2.5, 3 years now. So
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think
I
um
still didn't correctly understand. Are you suggesting this as the name of the category or the brand name?
well, I have both on the screen here. So above here is the brand,
Uh-huh.
and then below is the category.
So the one in yellow you're suggesting as the brand name.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the first or the indoor simulated skylights as the category name.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think about the word intelligent? Did you give that a thought as we shared intelligent skylights or intelligent sunlight?
Well, that I think is I think that is it's a feature of your product. If there were a lot of skylight, if there were a lot of this product, it's narrowing the focus, more than you need to. People don't even know about a simulated skylight, let alone an intelligent one.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's a feature of yours, but I don't think it's the driving. I mean, they're not looking for it. You would use a word like intelligent, and when it's good is when you had the cell phone and you had the smartphone, right? And that, you've got skylights and intelligent skylights. That's where you would use a thing like intelligence. But I don't think at this point, that's the driver. I mean, the most exciting point is that you're simulating a skylight, that without the structural architectural availability of that, you can put this product in to do that. um let's just talk and let this sit for a minute, but let's talk a little bit about, let me take this. um so here you've got what the obviously that other company, they've gone to, I think it looks like they just manufacture those squares and then they put them in, whatever kind of configuration. For yours, what is there are they these long narrow, have you figured out in terms of the manufacturing the best way to do this so that it's I assume, if everyone was custom, that would be pretty expensive.
Uh-huh.
But have you figured out the best way to to do these?
I didn't understand your question, Laura. Sorry.
Well, look, so here the your competitor has these squares,
Uh-huh.
right? And I think everything they put in are the squares.
Uh-huh. They have
When you
they,
install,
they do all sizes. They do custom sizes for the panels.
okay.
Yeah.
And but are they? It looks like, so that they are panels, though. Would that be correct?
And so are so is that what we are doing as well. We are also doing light panels,
Mhm.
and a series of those makes the illusion that it's all a set of one, like it's all one source. It doesn't seem like there are different panels. Like
Mhm.
this, the one you see here in this photo,
Yeah.
these are one, two, three, four, five panels, but it seems like it's all integrated within one because of the interior design concept.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you certainly see the demarcation between them. So
Mhm.
it's not one, clear. On some skylights, it's just a bubble. Um, Others, obviously this is, and it doesn't matter, but the panel idea is not bad. Let's see. Let's go to do you have more? So it's changed. You see your website now, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, because these are larger in terms of it would be helpful. Okay, here we go. I think we wanted to think about what is the classic, right? I appreciate that you can do all of this custom type of work. These are quite interesting. I think is this in your dad's home?
That's my father's cabin in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hold on. I'm
is
quickly
it?
going to show you what our most standard, like you said, design
Yeah.
is.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, because this website is not updated.
Yes, no, I understand. Yeah. Let's look at some pictures because I think we want to figure out. I mean, I haven't seen oh, yes, that's the picture I was hoping for. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a standard design. When I say standard, I mean this is very much doable for us in masses when it comes to production. So this is even if our client asks for a certain amount of customization, we won't have to really customize it from a backend. It's just a little bit of extra cutting and trimming, but that's about it.
No, that's, yeah, this, I was, yeah, I was hoping that was the picture. That was the picture that was ingrained in my mind from the last session, because I think, it is, and here we'll go back. I can,
I'm quickly going to show you another picture, which
oh,
actually
great.
even give a better example of this.
Oh, what am I
All right,
doing?
can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So this is
Oh,
a conference room.
mm-hmm.
And again, it's the same design as I showed you before this.
Yeah, I wonder if it's, yeah, if it's better to show what it would be. I mean, well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, because it's, they have natural light anyway, but having the skylight effect is impactful regardless.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, were there any others you wanted to show? And it looked like you had a bunch in there.
I did, but I'm gonna actually send you the high resolution files for
Oh
this.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So one question I had for the name was that does the name have to trigger the meaning? Is it necessary to trigger the meaning in the name?
Um,
And as I was actually reading the book Positioning for the second time,
mhm,
and specifically really paying close attention to the chapter of naming the brand. And it said that,
mhm.
of course, in this overly crowded age of so many brands, overpopulated, as you say it, it's important for the name to mean something. Otherwise, it's going to get lost in the world of brands. And I think you mentioned how every day 10,000 brands are being registered. So, but at the same time, you also mentioned when you're entering into a new category, that's the only exception when you can have a name and it cannot, and you have the agility to not have it mean anything. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean something.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously positioning was, written in the 1970s.
Mhm.
And I think in many, and naming has gotten way more complicated. For one reason is that we have the website and the internet,
Yeah.
and why, there has been some change into the philosophy of that. However, I mean, there was one thing about the internet is that it made really generic names really poor, which was always the case. If in the positioning book, Miller Lite called their beer light, Lite, which was an understandable word and right, but it was an absolute disaster. Always the idea of generics as brand names, and that has gotten even particularly worse. And of course, and totally impossible to even get the URL if you're going to pick, sunlight.com, as your brand name. So, no, I mean, I think it is the ideal situation the ideal situation is using commonly known words in unique ways. And there's two ways to do it. So there's one is to use a word that is a word that is used out of context. So you have Bumble as one of the leading dating websites. So it has nothing to do with dating. But it did lend itself, it had the bee reference. So she uses the color yellow and all of the bee type of things, but it was her firstness in a category. And what she was is, the first dating site where women make the first move, right? And then you have Tinder, which is, another website, Tinder is, again, nothing to do with the category, but, as the first brand in the mind in terms of hooking up is where, Hot and Tinder and all of that came together. Grinder is another one. I mean, these are concepts of words used out of context. Or you can create words, and these are what we find are particularly good for entrepreneurs, for a couple reasons. You get some of the benefit of giving people an insight as to what you're about. Right. A little bit of a teaser, if you will. Sun is in your name, right? So it's got something to do with sun. We don't know exactly what, but we have something to do. And the availability of the website. You might find some of these words, bumble.com, for example, had to have been, in some cases, you have to pay astronomical fees because somebody is owning this and sitting on it. And so, the balance of finding the right name that is available, that does make sense, that, all of these things are, you're juggling to figure out the best combination of what to do. So
one other consideration we have had for the name, I would like to get your feedback.
Yeah.
Is courtyard. Why? Because our product gives that feeling of being in a courtyard, and courtyards usually have an open sky, open roof. So they have that feeling of a huge skylight, actually. So courtyard it doesn't specify what we do, but it gives the feeling of what we do. So courtyard life or courtyard living, I don't know if that's appropriate for a brand name. Courtyard living sounds too much like a service or
sounds like a magazine.
Yeah. We agreed to this, that it doesn't sound like a product or sound like a brand name, but just something that I wanted to share with you because it's been running in the mind.
Yeah, I mean, to me, courtyard isn't specific enough, and it's not the I mean, I understand the emotional aspect of it, but the problem is the ideal picture is going to be the office here. And this is very distant from a courtyard. And you're not, many of these are intimate spaces that actually have nothing to do with a courtyard is my other concern. Again, it goes to the ideal application. Not that I think courtyards can be, tremendous value of here, but starting off narrow, a courtyard would require a lot of these, right? That's probably one of the most expensive installations. Ideally here, what you can do with 6 panels, for an individual is incredible. And so I think it's about the narrow focus.
Agreed.
Yeah. What so is this so this is a typical installation. In this picture, how much, I mean, it looks, obviously it was professionally done. I mean, is all the light from your light?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would also quickly like to show you how the installation is done. It's a quick
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
second. There we go. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so that's an empty wall. We simply place a frame like that, and that's the grid that you see is a template for us to place the panels. Then we place the panels, and simply these are the rafters in the middle that you just saw. So from this to this, right now there's a 16 mm gap between the panels, and to fill that and to give that illusion of it being a homogeneous ceiling, of it being one piece of a skylight, we add these rafters, and then in the end we get a false ceiling done.
Okay. So you could hang it low if that would be a cheaper, uglier way to do it, right?
Come again?
Oh, well, I mean, so that would have to be done. So you then you build the ceiling.
Yeah.
Could you cut into the ceiling and recess it as well?
The ceiling would have to, the false ceiling would have to come off first in order for us to have it placed, because as you saw that the frame goes first, and the frame requires screwing to be done on the edges.
I see.
Yeah. So the false ceiling will have to be so we can't have a cutout and then place our product. We need.
I see.
We need
because you have to screw something in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how would you do that in an existing home? You would have to then lower the ceiling.
No, we're gonna have to take the false ceiling off.
False ceiling off.
Yeah, and many of the houses, they don't even have false ceiling. For example, my room here, it doesn't have a false ceiling. This is the RCC, as you call it.
What does that mean?
So
we have, yeah. Go ahead.
Any room, it has a ceiling, which is the cemented part, and then there's a lot underneath the ceiling. For example, lighting, wires, this, that. So people usually do that under that ceiling, under that cemented ceiling, and then get a fake ceiling done underneath that.
Right. Well, no, that's what I was saying. Either, I mean, it would lower your ceiling, or you'd have to, yeah.
And the false ceiling, the fake ceiling, cannot even take the weight of our entire product. So we are going to have to place it on the real cemented ceiling only.
I see. Okay. So you keep your existing ceiling, but so it means that in your house, it's going to lower than how much does it lower it?
9 inches. That's the standard. That's how much any residential space lowers the false ceiling to.
Okay.
9 to 10 inches is the standard. So we're not lowering the height. We're just adding this in their current false ceiling structure. So with or without our product, people usually do get that false ceiling done. That's a standard requirement for every household, to hide the wires, ducting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I haven't, cut into, I mean, I don't know, it depends on where you are, but yes, no, there's always stuff above there for sure.
Absolutely. So we do it
Yeah,
inside that.
I see. So yeah, you take off the drywall and then
Yeah. So it's
put it
not
back.
cutting down on your space. It's not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, no, that because that would be a bummer.
Yeah.
Um, first- yeah, it's
I'm quickly going to show you another drawing, which is really going to help you
mhm.
understand this. So this right here, what you see, do you see my arrow cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this right here is the real ceiling. It's a cemented ceiling.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
this
yeah. Okay.
is the fake ceiling.
I see. Okay.
These are our rafters. This is our light. And the distance
Mhm.
between the real ceiling and the fake ceiling is 9 inches.
Okay. I see. And I guess that's pretty standard.
Yeah, that's the standard. So 8 to 10 inches is the standard.
Okay.
And actually,
Huh.
Laura, if you look at this drawing again, we're increasing the height because since 8 to 9 inches is the standard, the visibility is going to start from here.
Right.
Since these are the panels, so this is all the visible part. There's no ceiling over here, obviously.
I
So
see. Yeah.
the bottom line for the panel is this.
Yeah. So yeah, you actually it's a feeling of increased space feel. But then you have, oh, okay. So I see that in the picture of the office, it's you're seeing all the way basically to the cement ceiling where your lights are.
Hmm.
Um, cool. Now but I want to get to and so we'll plan to go till 10 today, or another 30 minutes. We do have you made any progress or made any calls to getting this installed in a major office would be fantastic.
So actually, yesterday itself, we have defined the strategy for this whole venture, and it's gonna for the next 3 months. The only
Mhm.
goal for this business is going to be product development and branding. That's it. So defining the branding part of it and developing the
Mhm.
entire product. So when I say the entire product, it means everything. So installation, the materials, the packaging,
Mhm.
the videos for installation, the videos for how you package it, how you install it, everything. So basically, we want to be ready to sell in the next 3 months. And this is also going to be including the entire factory setup. So entire backend and manufacturing setup. We need 3 months for that. After those three
Mhm.
months, we're going to take another 3 months to install it within the residence or the offices of our friends and family, not to sell it commercially as of yet, because uh, we've got a lot of feedback through the exhibitions, almost 2,000 visitors every day, but not a real feedback of somebody living with this light. So we need
Mhm.
3 months for that research phase. And after these 6 months, 3 months of product development, 3 months of research, that is the time for the next 6 months we want to start selling. And that selling is going to be to the corporate offices as well as the residential homes.
Oh, yeah, the only comment I have is I agree. I think that sounds like a great strategy. My concept was working with a company, not necessarily that you would sell to, but that you would work as a, you know, an initial test partner that you
Yeah.
could then
As you suggested
use.
last time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
it would not be, it wouldn't be a sales pitch. It would
Yeah.
say, hey, we're this entrepreneurial company. We've got this product we're developing. We would like you to, be a test launch of this, as you're building your office, if you would put these in at a special deal, basically. I think your opportunity to do that is now, and instead of it being a full blown, everything is, we've got the brochures and we're selling away, that you do now as an early stage, kind of project, could, if you had the contacts with some of these, offices that are being built, to put some in, because it would be tremendous in terms of the PR, as well as even, when you're ready to sell, to say that it's already in XYZ office and doing amazingly well. Granted, the residential, testimonials will be important, but, and the other thing is, once you start selling, it's going to be a long process to have a true commercial sale. Because, they go on for a very long time, particularly if you're selling this at full market, price and value. So, the idea being is, if you can get an installation done within a company early on, I think it would be definitely something to look into and pursue, not to go out and try to sell it to every
Yeah.
company,
I,
as a,
absolutely. So even to
so yeah,
reach
so
that point, we need 3 months, Laura. So even
oh yeah, no, sure. Well, listen, that absolutely. If you need 3 months, but I think, I don't want you to look at it as you're going out to sell the offices. You
yeah,
absolutely don't want to do that.
we
Yeah. But
absolutely loved and appreciated the idea when you proposed it last time as
yeah.
well.
Well,
Because
good. I just want to make sure. Yeah, that it
yeah,
wasn't. Yeah. So, but if even to go to someone to make that kind of pitch, you do need, a number of things in place, and in terms of, in particular, the R&D side that you would show them. I mean, they're not going to necessarily care what the name of it is, or what the website looks like.
yeah,
Although, it wouldn't hurt to have that done. But I think, more importantly, if their contractor talks to you, they want to make sure this thing is legit. That's going
yeah,
to be
yeah,
the key. So, make sure that you have the specs right, if you will, in terms of what it would take to install these. Because, I mean, the thing is, I think, with the photos you have, and the ability, in your experience, both you, as well as your dad, to have a meeting, I think you'll do very well. But you definitely need the spec side of it, in terms of what the contractor would want.
yeah.
Let's talk for a few minutes then and I will go ahead and let's see. It's nice to have a drawing board here. Share the screen. So yeah, so let's talk about some of those benefit ideas. And you've got on your website, fun experience. Now that's not bad either. So what I think is, we need to define it. So the lights were surrounded by, yes, yeah. Well, we talked about the lights.
Mhm.
Um, um, so lightens the mood. It's the quality of the sun. Gives life to dull and gloomy areas. That's nice. Well, gives life is another. There's a nice one, because lightens. high energy sound. Now, I think what we want to start with here is, of course, when you're looking at the office space, what does it do? Um,
So, in the beginning, Laura, would you suggest that at our website we specifically talk about the offices?
Well, I think you want to start with the offices.
Okay.
Again, when you talk about a website, I always talk about, the homepage hit
Uh,
you in the face and
uh,
the headline. You're going to have subsequent pages on the website that would be, other installations of it. Obviously this is going to go into many residentials, as well, but even the everyone I know has a home office. Right. And actually that picture you have, and the worst part in a home is that the office tends to be in the back corner. I mean, very few home offices are in a space that has access to windows and sunlight. You've got light in your kitchen, and other rooms, but the office of a home is, really, very, very ill lit generally. And again, you want to pick the worst room, in some ways. I think office lighting, is just the worst. It was the last place to get good lighting, if you will. And so I think there's the opportunity there to hammer at that first. But no, there's, when you say focus, again, it's it is most important what you start with, the most ideal situation of looking at this. And I think, you show the competitor showed that, their first image is that living room with a whole wall of lights, which, to me was not the best example of an installation that would really give and drive a value. I mean, it's a striking, type of picture, but it's not very. So that, talk to me about, so high energy levels.
are you
But
asking how
yeah,
it's
let me pull out my notes, because we talked about the fact that it improves focus. What was that?
um the how it actually increases our high energy levels is very scientific as well, because it increases light has direct impact on our an acid called serotonin in the body,
Yes.
and the light we're surrounded by initiates the production of that acid, and the more acid of serotonin that we have in the body, the more focused and the more energetic we feel throughout the day.
Yeah, no, I think the where is, let me get my notes here. Well, and let me go back to here. Let me make some. So in terms of the office, I mean, you're talking about both um concentration. So there's the, maybe these are the well, I guess these are mental,
Yeah.
because you have the, and that would be the,
Happiness, yes.
yes, wow, maybe I need a third one. What did you have?
That's going to fall in either the sleep, um, or yeah, it's going to fall in either of these categories. Either
Oh, relaxed. Well, I don't know about relaxed, but
uh,
well,
yeah.
it's not really. I mean, I know what you mean by relaxed, but in the office, we don't want to relax too much. It's the,
Yeah.
I mean, it's your ability to focus, but it's joy, happiness, and
So, what's the objective of writing down the benefits, Laura?
well, yeah, we always need to have a specific set based on who we're talking to.
Right.
Yeah, just part of the process.
Okay.
Um, there's is there a third area? Length the mood, feeling of joy, energy level. I think there's the well, I mean, those are really the two main areas. I think the other thing is there is a certain okay. We also want to talk about the overhead. Well, the intelligent part of it. How is that? Is that on an app?
That is, yes.
Do you have any screenshots of that, or is that to be even be developed?
It's
Or
being developed, yes.
I mean, that's where I think we can get to the intelligent. I mean, it's in some ways it's better than the sun. We don't have the vitamin D part of it yet, but the ability, I mean, you control I mean, there are some days, well, to your point, in Sweden, there is no sun in the winter for the majority of the day. I mean, you can override Mother Nature, if you will, to have the experience. It's
Hmm.
I mean, you as well as you're controlling it is an interesting part of it. Um, experience, um,
Things.
power of, or well, you're also
Blue sky.
sunlight in experience. It's not always power. It's have you what let's see, what other word is it? The power of sunlight,
Experience the power of sunlight indoors. Experience the yeah, that's but this sounds like we're bringing the real sunlight indoors and not the simulated.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, well, that's well, it's your experience. Yeah, your experience. Simulates the experiential.
Hmm.
Sun via the is I do get the roof idea. It's an interesting concept that you're taking off the roof, if you will. There could be an interesting way of um showing that. There's also the notion of um I think it's clear when you see it that these are frosted glass, right? So
Yeah.
it's you do have the filtration of the light, so it's not, a bright sunshine.
Hmm.
Um, that I mean, that's where, the iconic picture, if you will. To me, this office is, nearly perfect. It's obviously totally indoors. There's no windows. It's small, so it's modest, but modern and high end as well without being over the top.
Hmm.
But it's something that you can imagine being simulated in any office or house, or it just or replicated, if you will. Um,
Hmm.
Simulates the um. Oh, oh. Yeah, I mean it's so
Is this for the tagline?
no, I mean I think there's a certain we are working with putting together verbalizations of it. I think that the tagline is going to be the category itself. So the first simulated skylight is the tagline. These would be written in copy, if you will. I
Hmm.
think what we don't have is what I'd like to say is the headline. So on a website you might have a headline, and then you have the name, you have the tagline, and then you've got the benefits that go along with it. In particular, you've got a situation here where we have to really explain what the category is. Um, that what is it? What does it do? What are the benefits? And but the a part of it is when you see it, a lot of the benefits are pretty darn clear. I don't think there's and not that we don't have to say it, but I think we do have to the visual again, the repetition of a visual that we can feel comfortable and confident with, that is a good application of it, and then to go along with what it is, of why I need it. The the headline is the headline's going to be, don't, it's kind of like don't work in the dark, it's going to be something with what the enemy is. Remember I talked about the kid in front of the, yeah, I mean, and again, I think one of,
We actually have this same image. If you go on our website and go on the vision page,
oh, you do? Let me
yeah,
see. I don't remember that. Okay, there we go. Oh, there, yeah. Yeah, it's a little dark. He looks like he's sitting on a couch, not a desk, and he doesn't have any shoes on.
yeah,
Um, I'd like someone who looks like they're in an office. Um, almost, like, this guy,
yeah,
right? I mean, although that looks like it's night out, so
yeah,
it's not, he's got a window there, but something that looks, I mean, a lot of these are obviously they're professionally done, so they're professionally lit.
mm,
But it's also something you can shoot and find. I mean, this is obviously a gamer, but I mean, the lighting of most, this is how a lot of people sit in their house, right? Um, and basically, an empty box that would have, the majority of the light screaming from the and most people have like this situation, they've put one of these ridiculous little lights on.
yeah.
That is, yeah, I mean, oh, here's one. Yeah, I mean, it's just not, doesn't look like a healthy type of environment. Um, I mean, for sure, we have to look around for this. I think you know what I mean. It just has to be a wider shot of an office. Uh, but I mean, it's pretty clear that yeah, well, I'm gonna look around. Just the right balance of I'll just um mm.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think it will be important. I mean, what is helpful is, let's see. Um, oops. Let's see. New slide.
Hmm.
Um, It's also the to your point of um not just light, it's a skylight. My friend, well, I think this was very good today. Oh, why is this? This is not like when I did this. There we go. You know what? I don't like that picture. Now we get the good picture.
Yeah.
So order. Send that.
Simuson.
Mhm. Oops. I'm gonna put it here. All right. So I'll send you a link to these slides so you have them.
Mhm.
And we will keep working on what that headline is and such. But I think you've got a bunch of stuff here that is very cool. Let me share anyone with the link. All right, I'm going to send it to you right now so I don't forget.
Laura, I would also like to ask you, would you, since obviously you're in this industry since so many years, you would also have connections with people who are more into the execution side of marketing and getting these whatever we're deciding for the brand tagline, all of these to get it out on the ground. For example, making the website, doing the logo design. Would you have connections to people of this sort?
Um, not well, listen, you're all the way in India. These things, I don't have I know a few people, but I think, you know, for example, I mean, first of all, you did a fantastic job with that website. I think you can do a bang up job once you have, the name, the logo, and you've got photos. I mean, I think you could do that without a doubt, particularly, right off the bat. In terms of a logo design, you'd probably want a designer that would do all the vector files and all of that. But listen, I think there's plenty of people right there that you might know, or in India that you can contract. When it comes to that, though, we can talk about, I mean, happy to, usually you go through a process with them and they give you a couple designs to kind of look at and think about. And so I'd be happy to, provide some so feedback on that. So I do that with a lot of clients. But I think it's much better for you to work with someone over there that you can meet face to face and do all those things. Then, again, I don't think you have a big part of the execution. I mean, you can these days, it is amazing what you can, build on your own on a website. And you really did a fantastic job. So I think I, save money on those kinds of things. I mean, most of the agencies I know would charge the arm and a leg. It would be ridiculous. But big companies write those expenses off basically. I think if you worked with a designer that would, again, give them the information and they give you a certain, variety of things to pick from, I think having for you, you're not going to put much, I don't think, the best logo types, I mean, with your name is just to make it simple and readable. I don't think, again, your category is the most important and exciting thing. What font you use in your logo is not going to make or break you, as long as you can read it. And I think, you'll be fine on that respect. Okay. So, we can quickly, if you want to schedule, because I really feel that even, in one more session, we can get you to a point, as you were saying, to build this brand for the first phase, and get it out there. And then, if you wanted to come back to me in a couple months and we can work on some other things as you've had more experience with it, I think that would be a really good plan. So, I do have, Thanksgiving coming up, and I am leaving to go to Malaysia, but I could do the last session on November 28th.
28th. Could you do it in the next week? 28th seems a little too far apart because I've got to come to execution with all these things.
Okay. Yeah, I do have, like I said, it is the Thanksgiving, but what about the 22nd?
When is the Thanksgiving for you? It's
What time you mean?
what date? What date is Thanksgiving?
Oh, that's on the Thursday, the 24th.
24th. Okay.
So the only day I'm working is the 22nd.
Okay, so either 22nd or 21st works well for me. So
Okay.
if second's good with you, then we can schedule it for 22nd.
Okay, yeah, I'm booked on the 21st. I have to do a photo shoot. So the 22nd. And if you want to do can we say 9 o'clock? Is that okay?
No, 9 o'clock. I would request for 8:30 a.m. EST because it gets
It's
late.
better. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. I might be at the lake. That's fine. So 8:30 a.m. Sure.
Just gonna schedule it as well. 8:30.
Okay.
All right, Laura, thank you so
All
much.
right, perfect.
For the session.
All right. Well, you send me the Zoom link and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. I'll also share some files with you for the sunroof render.
Yes, please. Yeah. That'd be great. Thank you so much.